Welcome to the PrepZone Show. I'm your host, Johnathan Bentley, joined by my co-host, Zak McCullough. And before anything, we need to thank Bevill State again for sponsoring.
Thanks to Bevill State. They've done a great job.
Yes, and a great new gym, which I mention every time.
Which you do mention every time.
All right, so we'll jump right into the games from last week. It was kind of what we expected, I guess, in some of these. Unfortunately, our opener here, Jasper, eliminated from the playoffs.
It's hard to believe that you've got a Jasper team that is most likely going to be 7-3. They're still not making the playoffs because they just lost to the wrong people.
Yeah, lost to the wrong team by the wrong amount of points, won. And, if you could go back, if they played Coleman late instead of where they played them, I think they'd probably win. But you got to count it when it's played 21-20, and Jasper will probably go 7-3 and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, and their other losses, obviously you've got this one against Hartselle, and then Athens, which really wasn't close. Probably should have been closer. It's an outstanding season considering they were 1-9 last year, but disappointing, not going to the playoffs after being so successful.
Yeah, I mean, it was 34-21, and we were talking about this before the show started and how they just had too many mistakes, 2 fumbles led to 2 touchdowns. They played them well after that, but I mean, it was 21-0 right after, I think, in the first quarter.
Well, Jasper had twice as many yards as Hartselle did. It was almost a domination by the Vikings. They just,
mistakes.
Like I say, mistakes.
Yeah, I hate that. But it's a good season no matter what, because I never expected them to win 7 games.
No, I didn't either.
So, Dora 54-9, nothing surprising there.
Yeah, Curry just got run all over by Jayden Griffin. Of course, that's nothing new. Jayden Griffin's done that to almost everybody this season.
Everybody.
Good win for Dora as they got a big showdown this week for a region championship. We'll get into that later.
Yes, and another team that also has that, Corner 34, John Carroll 27.
John Carroll fought and made it close. Corner they were in a little bit of trouble at times,
They
were able to fight their way through it. Kind of been the mojo for this team, winning close games.
Yep, they're a second half team. They were down 24-14 at halftime. So outscored them. They held them to 3 in the second half, 20-3 second half. Big win for Corner. They had to have it. Winston County, this is also no surprise, undefeated against winless 72-20 with Tharptown.
Yeah, they beat Tharptown. And I reckon it was backups because that's actually the 20 points Tharptown scored. That's the most Winston County's allowed all season.
Wow.
In a game.
They are third in 2A in scoring and defense.
So Winston County just ran all over Tharptown. Yeah.
They had 60 at halftime. And that was one away from their school record for 73 points.
Wow.
And that game was 73-20 against Vinemont. I think it was 2015. All right, so Lynn, another close game, 33-28 at Hubbardsville.
Yeah, Hubbardsville, you got to give them a lot of credit. They made this one very, very interesting. Lynn, that would have thrown a wrench into the conference, the region playoff and standings picture. But Lynn was able to avoid the upset, beat the Hub. Close game.
So Lynn has a region. Right now they're the region champ. Right. I mean, that's over. I don't think anybody else has had it yet, but yeah, good for Lynn. I already got that taken care of. Addison 41-14. That clinched the 3rd spot in the region for them.
I'm glad Addison's able to make the playoffs. Been slightly disappointing of a season for the Bulldogs. Still, all you got to do is make the playoffs, get on a run. No telling what could happen. Addison and Vina was they were 6-2 heading into this game. Kind of got exposed because they really hadn't played anybody. Addison, conversely, they've played Winston County. They played Decatur Heritage. It's been a tough season for them, but they've played tough opponents.
Yeah, it's kind of like that reminds me of Dora.
Right.
Meek 68 to Cherokee 28. That was a game that clinched the 2nd spot for them. Good turnaround for Meek.
Meek has done a really good job clinching the spot in the playoffs, like you say, hosting a game. Going to be big. Maybe Meek can make a run too. Yeah,
it's good to see. I mean, they started 0-3 this year, so 5 in a row, and that 3 was tough. I think it was Winston County, Hackleburg, and Lynn.
Those are 3 teams with a combined 24-1 record.
Wow, did you just know that?
Yes,
yes, you did.
I studied. I studied for once.
Very impressive. It was like you knew I was going to ask that. I didn't. Yeah, that was not scripted. Okay. So then we got some games that were kind of disappointing. Vinemont, a game you were at, 20, Oakman 7.
Well, Tyler Thomas was not able to play in this game because of injury. Because of that, Vinemont really suffocated Oakman. Oakman, they had a lead in the 4th quarter, but just couldn't capitalize on it. Vinemont gets the win. Pretty much wraps up the 3 seed in that region for Vinemont. Oakman is in must-win mode this week if they want to go to the playoffs.
Seems like Coleman County schools have really owned Walker County. You got the number on that?
I do not have the number on that. But you're right.
Like they have won most of those.
Everything from Coleman to Jasper.
Hanceville
beat Carbon Hill. Wasn't able to beat Oakman, though. So at least we got that one. Oakman beat Hanceville. Vinemont beat both Carbon Hill
and Cold Springs has lost a few to our local teams.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, so Fultondale 42-6 over Cordova.
Yeah, Cordova, their usually stingy defense, gave up too many points in this one. Fultondale had a great game. Nothing Cordova could really do.
Yeah, I mean, they played Dora last week. Fultondale, they're very similar teams, and they both put up points against Cordova. Speaking of points, Midfield 54 to Carbon Hill 7 on homecoming.
Yeah, that really rough game for Carbon Hill. Midfield, they really popped up from out of nowhere to challenge for the playoff spot in that region.
Yes.
We'll get into that later. Been disappointing game for Carbon Hill, though. Would have liked to have seen them keep it closer. But give credit where credit's due. The Midfield Patriots had an outstanding game.
Yeah, they're not a bad team. And finally, Marion County 59, Sumner Christian 29. Sumner Christian scoring points.
Yeah, they're getting the hang of the offense. Maybe too little, too late. It's a good step forward, for next season.
And Marion County this week plays Pickens with the winner going to the playoffs, so Pickens could miss it.
That would be absurd for Pickens.
Yeah.
That seems like it should be illegal for Pickens.
Yeah, they don't miss the playoffs ever. It's probably been a long time. So we'll jump to our top players of the week. It says 2 players of the week. Maybe there should be 3.
There should.
You could
argue for that.
Yes, but we'll start with talk a little bit about our first guy here.
Our first guy, no surprise, Jayden Griffin. He could be on this list every single week.
Yes.
In fact, I think he has, except for when Dora was off. Just a mild, decent game. 302 yards with 5 touchdowns, and that was all on 7 carries. 43 yards per carry. His touchdown runs were of 59, 76, 44, 36, and 1 yards. On the season, 2,113 yards and 30 touchdowns.
30 touchdowns. That's
good heavens.
And yet again, they had that 1 yarder that killed his average.
I know.
Kicked it all the way down to 43.
It down to 43.
It would have probably been 50. Yeah, that's just, the guy's incredible. What can you say? Just, we don't have anybody like that usually. We've had great players the last couple of years, Kel Tittle and Cam Deaver and guys like that, but he's right there, up there with them. 2,000 yards in 9 games. Still had a game to go. Big one.
Big game.
So Winston County's Landon Kelly, this was against Starktown, but he played 1 play into the second quarter and completed 11 of 14 passes for 339 and 6 touchdowns.
6 touchdown passes in the first quarter.
It's like the Jayden Griffin passing version here.
Could you imagine your Walker Winston County dream team just putting the best players
those
of each?
two.
That would be fun.
Yeah. I don't know who'd get the ball. It'd be tough to get all the carries. So that's 2 times that Kelly's had a game like that, but 339 in a half in a quarter. So yeah, that was a bad day for the Starktown there.
It was a bad day for Starktown.
So finally mention the Addison guy. Addison guys always they share the wealth there.
They do. They spread the ball.
Nobody gets yards. Hardly. It's just spread out. They usually blow somebody out and get 8 or 9 carries each. But we can mention Elijah Roberts this week. 12 of 13 passes for 180 and 2 touchdowns. Rushed for 61 yards. 2 2-point conversions and had an interception on defense.
Had to throw that interception.
Yes.
That shows he had a complete game. Both sides of the football. It hasn't been the usual phenomenal season for Addison, but at least Elijah Roberts is getting it done.
And he had a great game against Meek in a losing game last week.
Effort.
They had 150 yards that week. So he's really stepped up to be their guy lately. All right, so we'll talk about this week's games. We have one Thursday game, and it's huge. Oakman 4-4 at Midfield 4-4.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. It's on a Thursday night. It's a shame it's not at Oakman.
I know, that would be perfect.
It would be very much worth checking out. But it's kind of a long drive into Midfield. Mm-hmm. A couple of 4-4 teams going at it with a playoff spot on the line.
And we've talked before also, Oakman 13 years in a row. So when's the last time they didn't make it? You were what, 4 or 5?
No, I was more like 1 or 2 years old.
Oh, there you go.
It's been a good long time.
Yes.
Since Oakman has missed out on the playoffs.
Mark Hastings days, and Hall has kept that going, Coach Ryan Hall. And the thing is, Tyler Thomas, you put him in, I feel good about their chances.
That's right.
Hopefully he's back.
I think Thomas will play. Obviously, I don't know. But if he does, I would say Oatman wins easy. If not, kind of 50-50. So I'm banking on Thomas playing, going with Oatman in this one.
Yeah, I am as well. He was almost played last week against Vinemont. He thought he was going to start. He wasn't able to play. So it's a high ankle sprain. Those are tricky.
Oh, those are tricky.
That's terrible. But
that's one thing when they played Winfield. You had a shot in that game, but you didn't want to get anybody hurt. And when Thomas went down, it really
that hurts.
It really hurt.
Really hurt.
Really hurt Oatman.
Yeah, one guy you can't have hurt. So yeah, I'm going Oatman as well, hoping he plays and hoping Oatman continues that streak. This is an interesting one. Jasper 5-3 at Columbia 0-8.
Columbia compiled some information. They're on an 89-game losing streak. Their last win, October 18th, 2015. They beat Ardmore 34-16.
Wow.
So it has been a little while for Columbia.
So last time they won, you were like 6 or something.
Yeah, I was 6 years old.
Wow. So
it has been a long time. Not going to ask how old you were when they last won a game. I'm not.
I had a full head of hair. I don't remember. Yeah, no wrinkles. It was a long time ago.
It has been a long time. 89-game losing streak. I'm going to say it's 90 after this one. Jasper gets a big win.
Yeah. Boy, that's tough. I mean, it seemed like you'd find somebody you could beat. But, yeah, tough go for Columbia. I feel for their coach and their players, man.
I do too, because these kids have gone through. You imagine a senior. They probably weren't even in junior high the last time this team won a game. But at least they've still got players showing up to play. That shows that they've they at least
love
football. Play football, even if they're not going to win.
So Jasper has to go to Huntsville for that game.
Be a nice ride home for them, though.
Yeah, they should be 6-3 after that one. Maybe the biggest game of the week. Dora 6-3 at Good Hope. Surprising Good Hope 8-0.
Yeah, Good Hope. It's been a very good season, like you say, 8-0. This season they've allowed 37 points. Only
for the
37
season?
On the season.
Oh,
that's less than 5 points a game.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Good Hope won 4 games last year. It's kind of came out of nowhere.
And the most that Good Hope has allowed, it was last week. They beat Fayette County 34-12.
Yeah, I mean, they've handled these teams pretty easily. Dora had a lot of close games with these teams.
Right.
Fayette County as well. Fultondale. I mean, it goes all the way through the season, it seems like.
They're both undefeated in the region, both Dora and Good Hope. And
6-0. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dora had a much tougher non-region schedule, but we can't ignore what Good Hope's done on defense. So this is going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, Dora's losses are to big schools. I think it was Minor, Corner, and Jasper. All pretty good teams. But I am going Good Hope. Yeah, it's on the road. And I'm tired of jinxing Dora. So maybe this will help.
Maybe it's a reverse.
Yes, I hope it is.
Dora, they have Jayden Griffin. That's their offense. And if Good Hope can slow him down, the Raiders probably won't have any trouble. If Jayden Griffin, however, can't be stopped, Good Hope might be ending their undefeated season.
Yes.
I'm leaning with Good Hope here, but I'm not very confident in picking Good Hope. It was 50-50, but I went with Good Hope.
Yeah. I mean, if it was Dora, I'd feel better about it. Another big one for another region championship, so if Dora wins, that's 3 in a row.
That's 3 region championships in a row if they win.
And if they lose, they're still at home. They're second. Right. So, I mean, yeah, not that bad a deal. So, Decatur Heritage 6-1 at Winston County 8-0. Is this a tough one?
Not really. I think Winston County's got so much talent. I think Decatur Heritage, their only loss was by 2 touchdowns to Addison. Winston County absolutely blew Addison away. So if you're just going by common opponents, Winston County has a massive edge. And I think Decatur Heritage has a really good team. I think they keep it close, but too much Winston County. And I think Landon Kelly has a big game. That really helps. Yeah,
those weapons, Clemens and Kelly, will hopefully have a big game there. Yeah, that's kind of weird that that's our only loss was Addison. They really bounced back since that loss. It was a good win for Addison, too. All right, so another one. So Corner is tied right now with Ramsey and Winona for the region lead, and they play a 3-3 Carver team at home.
Corner desperately needs this win because that would really put them over the top in that region. If they lose, they'd be a 3 seed traveling. So a lot at stake in this one. Carver, they're a big school, obviously the same region, but they traveled to Permian High School in Texas to play a game. So they are traveling around a lot, but that also takes a toll on you eventually. In Carver, I think they're on a 2 or 3 game losing streak, kind of taking a downturn. Corners responded fairly well to their surprising loss against Briarwood Christian. I got the Yellow Jackets winning this one close.
Yeah, I do as well. Carver, they were 3-0. They only have 8 games on the schedule, or maybe it was 7. Yes. They have hardly any games this year, which is really strange. But corner, I think they could still come in second if they win.
That's true.
Well, they got the tiebreaker over Ramsey, but the winner of Ramsey Winona would pass him if they lose. So
That's
they
true.
would, yeah, at
So
least
they could still.
they
come in second.
may be second. I think they'd have Carver would have the tiebreaker. So I don't know.
It's going to be
Just win,
just win, corner.
and then you don't have to worry about it.
Just win
Yes.
and take care of business.
All right, some non-playoff teams also playing this week. Haleyville 3-6 at Cordova 1-7.
Yeah, Haleyville, they want this win. They could go 4-6. Cordova, been a down season for them. Obviously, the first year under Coach Maynard being back, so kind of rebuilding. I'm going to have to go with Haleyville this one, but I think the Cordova defense rebounds from the last 2 weeks, and it's a little closer.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Haleyville as well. It's just been Cordova's just has so much trouble scoring points this year. Defense, we'll have to keep them in it.
Right.
It's going to be close. Fultondale 5-3 at Curry 0-9. This is it for Curry.
Yeah,
Last game.
Fultondale is not a traditional power. They've had a great season, but like you say, last game for Curry, been a rough season, but those fellows have put in a lot of work. Coach Cordell over there, he's put in a lot of work too. So maybe this will be a building step towards some success in the future. Going to have to go with Fultondale here, but hopefully Curry can pull something off in their final game of the year.
Yeah, this is a tough way to end the season. You get Dora and then you get Fultondale, they're very similar teams. So, yeah, I'm going with Fultondale as well. Hopefully Curry can keep it close. This is a mismatch on paper. Yeah. Gordo 8-1 at Carbon Hill 1-7.
Yeah, Gordo's a juggernaut. Their only losses to Winfield. Carbon Hill also struggling like Curry. In fact, Carbon Hill's only win was against Curry the first game of the season. Green Wave wins pretty big.
Yeah, I agree too. Carbon Hill has Meek next week, but yeah, got to get through Gordo. That's a tough game.
That is tough to ask.
It's a tough schedule in that region. All right, so Meek 5-3 at Vina 5-3. Vina coming off that loss to Addison last week.
Yeah, I don't. They have the same record, but I don't think they're evenly matched. Meek wins big.
Yeah, I agree. That is a very top heavy region, and Meek's in one of like we said, second.
Right.
So Vina, I think, needs this to make the playoffs. Well, this is a good year for them.
For Vina, if they could make the playoffs, which I don't think they will, but if they could, it would be massive. Either way, they're not going to have a losing record, which is huge because the Vina Red Devils are typically at the very bottom of the barrel in high school football around here. So good to see them kind of pushing their way.
Yeah, that's right. At least 5-5. Very good. Phillips 2-6 at Addison 5-4. Another blowout.
Right. Probably will be a blowout. Addison, they're going to clinch another winning season with this one. Phillips, it's been a kind of a rough season in Bear Creek. I think this is another rough game for them. Give me Addison.
Yeah, I agree on that one. So South Lamar, which is usually good, the Stallions are always good.
Right.
I mean, in years past, this would be for the region championship.
Last year, it really was.
And then now you got South Lamar 2-6 at Lynn 8-1. So this is it for Lynn too. It's
been very, very weird for South Lamar this year. Last year, they gave Lynn a run for their money. I think that game was they had a 2-touchdown lead at one point. Did South Lamar ended up blowing it? Cale Tittle had a massive, monstrous game. For Lynn, obviously there is no Cale Tittle. But you've got Braylon Roberts, you have Austin Dodd, a host of other contributors. Lynn wins it very easily.
Yeah, Austin Dodd back. It's good to see Lynn full strength. So they'll have a week off before the playoffs. This is their 10th game of the year.
That's very smart schedule on there to give them a week off to rest.
Yeah, perfectly. Dora's the same way. All right, so Summit Christian 1-7 at Hubbartville 6-2. A very good Hubbartville team.
It has been a phenomenal season for the
very
Hub.
Good team.
Your only losses are to Lynn and to Barry, which are not bad losses at all. Summit Christian, it's been a little bit of a struggle. They're offense is starting to fire up a little bit as of late. So I think this is a big, high-scoring game, but I'm going with Hubbartville.
Yeah, I'm going Hubbartville as well. I mean, they're third in the region. That's a tough region,
It is.
And Summit Christian, I'm glad they got that win against Belgreen.
They got the win against Belgreen. Good scheduling.
They stomped them. All right, so we're going to talk about our 3 teams that have a chance at region titles this week. It's Dora, Corner, and Lynn. How many region champs do we have next week?
Probably 2. I'm going to go with Corner and Lynn winning their regions.
Since Dora, we did pick against Dora.
We did pick against Dora, so it would be very logical to go in that direction. I'd like to see 3 region champions.
I would too.
I really would, but I'm going to say 2. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, Lynn's already in. I actually left Winston County also. So yeah, Dora, Corner, and Winston County are playing
Winston
for
County
them.
is playing for that, and I don't think that they'll have too much trouble with Decatur Heritage, but it could be
They
interesting.
shouldn't. Yeah.
It could be interesting.
And Corner and Winston County have never won a region.
Wow.
That goes back to 2000. People will say, well, yeah, they did in the 90s or 80s or whatever, but region play started in 2000. So before that was area, and you only had to win a couple of games.
The region system, it's not perfect, but it accomplishes its purpose of getting a lot of teams in the playoffs. You get a lot of teams, and you still don't have so much craziness in the playoffs to where it diminishes from the regular season and the best teams not making it and all that sort of thing. So it does its purpose.
That's true. Yeah. Because before you could go 8 and maybe 7-3, 8-2 and miss it. Well,
you could still go 7-3 now.
And miss it now.
Like I said,
it's
not
rare
perfect.
though. It's rare. Yeah. And the good thing about area was you could schedule like most of the games yourself.
Right.
Instead, now the state does most of your schedule, and you get 3 or 4,
which
maybe 4.
That hurts because you're not able to schedule all of your rivals.
Local teams.
You're able to get 1 or 2 in, but especially when your rivals are good and you kind of want an easier non-region game, but then you'd have to drop a traditional rival, so it kind of makes scheduling a little hairy. But you can't help that. It's done a good job.
There's good and bad.
There's good and bad.
But Oakman facing a must-win situation too. We kind of talked about that. So we have a chance to get a lot of teams in the playoffs this week. I mean, some of them already are, but I'd like to see Oakman in there again.
I mean, before the season, my bold prediction was that we would see every one of our teams in Winston County in the playoffs. And now I think that's going to happen.
Yep.
So it's been a phenomenal season playoff-wise. The only issue, like we say, Jasper going 7-3 and missing out, which is a little disappointing. But
it's rare too. We've had 3 and 7 make it.
Yeah, we've
a
had
lot
3 and
every
7.
year. That's happened.
Let's see. It was 2 years ago. Oakman made it at 3 and 7,
and went 3 and 8. Yes, and Jasper is 7-3. Because you wonder how in the world does that happen? And it's just who you lost to. That's it. Comes down to it. That is a very difficult region. We have some teams in a not so difficult region, but Jasper was in a very difficult, with a very top heavy.
It was
region.
very top heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Columbia, which is pretty much an easy win for everyone.
Yes.
And I hate to insult the school because I'm sure it's a great school, but still football program struggles. So at least you got that.
And you got Decatur down there that also struggles.
Right.
And those teams aren't going to help you by upsetting somebody. And they didn't this year.
No, they didn't. That hurt Jasper.
Yeah.
Like you say, top heavy region.
It's Jasper. There's a team somewhere that probably will make it with 4-6 record or something like that, and Jasper's sitting at home. Yeah, that's tough. But they would have had probably Parker.
That's true.
Or Homewood, but you still want the chance.
That's right. You know? And at least it'll serve for some motivation for next year. Fire them up, like, and say, hey, we had a great season, but we didn't make the playoffs. Leave no doubt in 25.
And a huge step forward. Can't say that enough. All right, so our top 5 teams in the next to last week of the season.
Well, even though they're not making the playoffs, I had to put Jasper in at number 5 because they've had such a good season to be ignored just because they're in a tough region. So they're my number 5 for this week.
I have Meek at number 5 in a row, and Hunter Wyatt running crazy, and Evan McKay. They had 2 guys that hadn't even played much this year have huge games last week. So they're kind of playing everybody down the end of the schedule in the region that's kind of easier teams. And I expect the same thing with Vina this week. But yeah, Meek kind of came out of nowhere after that 0-3 start.
Yeah, they're my number 4. Go ahead and get that out of the way. They're my number 4. It's been a phenomenal season for them the last few weeks. 5 in a row, like you say. And as I mentioned earlier, their 3 losses to start the season were to teams with a combined 24-1 record. Yeah. So they had a tough schedule to start it off. But that's one of the benefits of playing a tough schedule is that later in the season when you're in these region games, it comes back and helps you that you've played tougher opponents, so it's kind of toughened you up, and that's why Meek's going to be hosting a playoff game here in a couple of weeks.
All 3 of those are ranked as well, even this late part of the season. All right, so I have Dora at 4.
Okay.
Because, I'm a big Dora guy, it seems like.
Well,
I always pick them and mess them up, jinx them.
You do jinx
them. So I did not pick them this week. So we'll see how that goes. But another good year and a really good region. I think it really helped them making the schedule tough, 6-3. Whereas Good Hope's 8-0. Not that their schedule's easy.
No,
they have Fairview next week.
That's
Good Hope Fairview's going to be a showdown, and Coleman County is a huge game. But maybe they're overlooking Dora for that.
Now I haven't thought about it that way, but yeah, that would be
because Fairview is loaded. I mean, yeah, that's the 2 best teams in Coleman County by far. But okay, who do you have it?
Well, number 3, I've got corner. The Yellow Jackets, phenomenal season. One loss to Briarwood Christian. Looks kind of bad on the resume considering that it was only Briarwood's second win of the season. But corner played a tough schedule. They found a way to win close, and that'll help them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I have corner at 3 as well. They were, they were losing going into the fourth quarter. They had 2 touchdowns, and Keaton Coffey had a hand in 4 touchdowns last week. Wow. The quarterback, and they needed all of them. I mean, it was a great game. But yeah, to have them here again, they got Spencer Unruh. They're 7-1. I didn't expect that.
Yeah, Spencer Unruh
really good season for them.
He's had a phenomenal season. We haven't brought him up enough.
Yeah, I think he had 150 yards again. I mean, that's what he does. He's over 1,000 yards.
We have so many good players in our county. It feels like we need top 10 players of the league.
Yes, I know. Yeah, he could have easily got that. He had and Coffey had a great game.
It's hard to compete with Jayden Griffin though when he's putting up 300 yards a game rushing.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen. But yeah, I can't remember the last time we had 300. So, it was last week, right? So yeah, it's over 600 yards. I gotta go talking about him again. 600 something yards, 620, I think, and 10 touchdowns in 2 weeks, and he hasn't even played 4 quarters.
No, it's
3.
It's unbelievable. It's like you go back to 2018 and 2019 when Tua was quarterback in Alabama. They didn't want to get him hurt, so he played the first quarter of every game, and still was a Heisman contender.
That's right.
And that's the same thing with him. He doesn't even have to play the whole game.
I don't even know if he broke a sweat. 7 carries.
If he were to play full 4 quarters and not get hurt, he might have 5,000.
We would have the record book. Yes, the record book would have his name all over it.
Yeah, but you don't want to get him hurt.
No,
and so that's good of Coach Chavis Williams down there.
Yeah, and he knows these other coaches, and you don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be disrespectful too.
7 carries, he got his yards.
Yes.
So more yards than anyone around here. So, number 2, back to that.
Yeah,
back to our list.
Back to our list.
Yes.
So your number 3 was corner, right? Mm-hmm. And I bet our number 2 is the same. It's Lynn. Been a phenomenal season. Mark Hastings, outstanding coach. He's done a great job with the Lynn program that when he took over, went, 2-8?
Yes, it was down.
And he's got them in a legitimate state title contender position, or at least contend to win the North.
In the North, yeah.
The South part of 1A is just phenomenal.
I know, yeah. Oh my God.
It's hard to believe how many
look
good
at the
teams
rankings,
there are down there. But he's got a legitimate contender on his hands, and now they're finally getting healthy. Everybody's going to be here for the playoffs, barring some sort of late injury, which we definitely do not want to see. Good things happening in Lynn.
Yes, and I'm glad everybody's healthy because Dodd came back and just right back to it.
That's right. Touchdowns like he hadn't missed a beat, even though he had missed almost half the season with an injury.
Yeah, it's good to have a guy actually get back at the end of the year. Usually it's the other way around. But like you said, Hastings, he just wins wherever he goes. And that's all you can say about it. Just a winner. And our number 1 team is Winston County.
It's got to be 8-0. Yeah. Phenomenal season. They're the clear number 1. They've just dominated almost every single game this season. Like I said, the most that they allowed was last week to Tharptown, allowed 20, and Winston County had to have their backups in at defense at that point.
No doubt.
So, it's been a phenomenal season for the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, and boy, that's going to be a crowded game this week at Malcolm Blake Stadium. Decatur Heritage coming to town.
And if you can see it, got the new white Winston County helmets in there. So thanks to Winston County High School for providing
it's a very nice helmet.
We appreciate it. It's very nice.
We always like corners as well.
That's right.
It's our favorite.
Got some beautiful helmets back there.
Yes, but very nice helmet and a nice team. It's really fit in well together.
Very talented.
Because they had a gold helmet last year, went 5-5. They have a new helmet, new team, boom, and hopefully 10-0.
Hopefully,
still have Faultville left.
Faultville could be challenging. I reckon Decatur Heritage is probably the last major challenge to that 10-0 season.
Let's get this one out of the way and win a region championship.
We'll find out what happens.
Yes. All right, so I guess we're done with high school stuff. Do you want to talk about this college stuff?
I don't.
We'll just run an X through it. It's right there. There, we don't have to talk about it. I'm kidding.
Oh, no.
No, wait. Auburn and Alabama both lost, which one was no surprise. Auburn was supposed to lose, right?
And Auburn actually had a good game. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
we'll start with Alabama at Tennessee. Did the goalpost? It wasn't your typical. Tennessee won. What was the score again?
24-17.
Okay. So Tennessee won. Did they tear the goalpost down?
They did. They tore the goalpost
But it wasn't like a traditional storming of the field. It seemed like it was kind of slow.
Well, I give credit to the Tennessee fans. They kind of waited till the Alabama players and coaches had left the field before they stormed it. I reckon they were also busy lighting up cigars, so they didn't have time to storm the field. So it could have been worse. You could have seen a situation like we had.
Oh, it was awful a couple years ago.
Actually, going back to basketball this February, Wake Forest beat Duke, stormed the field, and injured Kyle Filipowski, one of Duke's best players. Yes. So anytime a field storming happens, could be a disaster. At least they waited till Alabama had kind of cleared the field before storming it and taking down the goalposts.
Yes. I've never stormed a field. I've stormed a court.
You stormed a basketball court.
Yeah, but Auburn traditionally doesn't storm the field. They have since,
You beat Alabama. They beat Alabama
a couple times, yeah.
They beat Alabama. And did they storm it when they beat Georgia in 2017?
I don't think so. That was actually a good team. Usually it's a huge upset. All right, so Alabama. So what are the problems you see right now?
Do we have enough time to go into? I'm looking. It might be a 5-hour show.
Is it players or coordinators or both?
A combination. I've disagreed with play calling. Sitting there watching the game with my dad, he was able to look at the field and know exactly what Alabama was about to run. And no offense to him, but when he can see it, the opposing coaches can see it too.
Right.
So Alabama is so predictable at this point, offensive play calling. Defensively, I don't like the 4-2-5 system that Kane Womack runs. Mm-hmm. But really, it could be just the players out there on the field. You got to think, you've got 3 freshmen rotating in and out at defensive back. You've got Jayden Mbakwe, who was at Clay Chalkville last year. Mm-hmm. You've got Red Morgan, who's been kind of a backup, but he has seen some playing time. Then you've also got Xavier Brown, who's had a good season, but he's still a freshman. So the defensive backfield is very thin when it comes to experience. The front 7 seems kind of lost at this point. One player that I'm surprised we haven't seen more of is a former number 1 recruit. His name is Keon Keeley, an edge rusher. We haven't really seen that much of him so far this season, and I think he could really make his way into the backfield and get some sacks, tackles for loss. So that's in a nutshell what I've seen, and there's a lot more that I could complain about.
So how come it worked in the Georgia game?
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't know. See, the point of our defense is you have to be able to get pressure on the quarterback and force mistakes. And to be fair, in the first half against Tennessee, Alabama did that.
Yes, they did.
The offense just couldn't capitalize. Another issue with the defense, they don't get off the field. And I think people forgotten, first game against Western Kentucky, Alabama allowed a 21-play drive.
Wow. It's unbelievable.
A 21-play drive. And then Alabama got a turnover on downs, scored in 2 plays, and the defense had to go right back out there. So I think the defense is exhausted because the offense is not really putting together drives. They're either going 3 and out or scoring very quickly. That's resulting in a lot of defensive issues, but it's just not good.
It's not cohesive, and it has been for so many years.
But
and,
to be fair, this is very similar to 2 years ago, and that was a Nick Saban coach team 2 years ago. But the defense was just as struggling. The offense was struggling too, with a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback. So maybe this is just the past few years, teams have caught up to Alabama in recruiting. Alabama doesn't have the plethora of stars that they have in the past.
Yes, especially running the ball everybody talks about.
Well, Alabama, we haven't had a running back with more than 45 rushing yards in conference play this season.
Wow. It's unheard of.
It is unheard of, and it's an issue. Just not establishing the rushing game makes us too predictable.
Yes, and now it's a big game this week, but yeah, it's kind of weird to see Alabama struggling, 2 out of 3 games, actually 3 in a row since the Georgia
3 straight struggles. I mean, it feels like 5 years ago that Alabama was up 28-0 on Georgia.
Yeah, a different team.
I was sitting there thinking, man, this team could win a national championship.
They might not lose.
Now this team probably is not going to the playoffs.
Do they have to win out to make the playoffs?
Have to win out. Yeah, either that or they need ultimate chaos, which in this
happened.
World of college football is,
you
might be able to count on that. But the LSU game is massive in 3 weeks. They have
off week.
Missouri this week, then an off week. Final 3 games of the season are pretty much gimme games. You've got Mercer, you've got Oklahoma, you've got Auburn. No offense, but those are 3 pretty much easy games. But these next 2 games are huge.
Well, Auburn's going to put it together between now and then.
Maybe.
So we were going to talk about Auburn 2-5 now. Have you some teams just find a way to win, and you know what I'm going to say.
Right.
Auburn just finds a way to lose. They just whatever they got to do. These guys will make a point to lose the game.
Well, Missouri,
they're going to do what it takes.
Missouri plays on turf, and their quarterback Brady Cook took an awkward slip. He slipped, dropping back to pass, took an awkward fall, non-contact injury. He is taken to the hospital, gets an MRI, comes back with his team down 17-6, and leads a game-winning comeback.
Terrible.
When you're Auburn, you got to expect
The second I saw him come back, I said, this game is over.
Well, they had Missouri had Drew Pine in there playing
it was
quarterback.
bad.
The Notre Dame transfer. And he was struggling.
He was struggling big
and Peyton
time.
Thorne was looking like somewhat of a game manager, didn't throw an interception.
Yeah.
Jarquez Hunter was he was there a little more running. So Auburn's trending in the right direction. They just need to actually win a game now.
I give Cook a lot of credit. He threaded a pass. As soon as he got back in there.
First pass.
He just threaded. I mean, it was a perfect pass. And it basically changed the whole game.
78-yarder.
Got down to like the 2 or 3 yard line.
1 yard line.
Yeah, the 1 yard line, and they scored. I mean, it was an incredible throw. The other guy could have never done that. Pine could have never. No. So, yeah, that was a great. He was a hero of the game.
He deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, that was a big time
You
throw.
leave the game, go to the hospital, and come back to win it.
Come back and make that throw.
Deserves some credit.
Yeah. And then he let them. Only Auburn could give up a 95-yard drive to lose the game. 95 yards. Had them 4th and 5. Had them 3rd and 18. Didn't matter. They're going to get it every time. They're going to get it.
Like you said, just finding ways to lose.
Cannot make one play to win the game.
I think if Auburn can just find a way to win one game, that might flip the season, and then Auburn 5-7 would be the ceiling. Maybe
would
depends.
take that at this point.
At this point, I'm sure you would.
So they got Kentucky this week. Well, I guess we're going to talk about that. We'll
talk about that later.
Do you blame Freeze for this the struggle this year?
I think I would have to blame him for it so far, just because he and Derek Nix, his offensive coordinator, play calling. At least a couple of weeks ago, I said this. The play calling was terrible. They weren't running Jarquez Hunter enough. Now they've started to run him a little bit. They've taken a bit of pressure off of Peyton Thorne, and give Thorne credit, he's played better too. So this is an Auburn team that's starting to kind of trend in the right direction. But Hugh Freeze not going in the portal in the offseason, especially knowing that Diego Pavia, quarterback that had beaten him 2 years in a row at New Mexico State, his dream was to play in the SEC, and he was getting in the portal. Why would you not recruit him?
I don't.
Instead, Pavia has to go to Vanderbilt and beat Alabama and wreck our season. So thank you for that, Hugh Freeze.
It's Hugh Freeze's fault.
If something goes wrong, we'll blame it on Hugh Freeze.
Yes, easy this year. And, I mean, I didn't understand the early season games. You're relying on this guy to win. You're putting way too much on this guy.
Right. And
who's not a good quarterback.
They've taken pressure off of Thorne.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, now they figured it out 7 games into the season. But
he's not trying to force passes downfield.
They were asking a lot of him, and he was not up to that. But, okay, so we'll jump to Zach's picks now.
Yeah, we've got a few picks, and we'll talk about Auburn. We'll talk about Alabama later. But first, we've got a ranked game outside of the SEC. One of the best stories in college football season has been our service academies. Army and Navy are both ranked and undefeated. However, Navy may not be for long. They have to play Notre Dame, games in East Rutherford, New Jersey at MetLife Stadium, which, a side note, cost $1.2 billion to build.
Wow.
That's an expensive stadium. Maybe they'll see a good football game. Notre Dame ranked 12th, Navy 24th. What do you see happening?
I would love Navy to win that game. Notre Dame's not that great.
They're not.
So maybe Navy can pull that off. Both the Navy and Army have also stomped UAB.
That's true, which is kind of on the negative end because we like for UAB to do good around here.
They're really struggling. But Notre Dame will probably – I'd take Notre Dame. It's going to be too much, maybe a couple touchdowns.
I agree with that. Riley Leonard has really started throwing the ball well. He's a Fairhope, Alabama native. He's the quarterback at Notre Dame. I think he went 4 or 5 games at the beginning of the season without throwing for a touchdown. He was a good runner. He ran for some touchdowns, but he hadn't been able to throw. Once that really got going and he started firing some touchdown passes, the season's turned around for Notre Dame. They're looking a lot better. I'm going with the Fighting Irish, just like you.
Yeah.
Getting into SEC play, here's a team. If you feel bad about Auburn, think they're the worst team in the SEC. Think not. Mississippi State. They might have a chance this week.
Oh, no.
They're hosting Arkansas. Mississippi State is 1-6. It's been a rough season for the Bulldogs. Does Arkansas have a chance to lose this one to Mississippi State? Because it's in Starkville. What do you think?
Boy, they look so bad. I thought that would be a good game against LSU, and that was not a good game. I'm saying Arkansas bounces back. Mississippi, it is a shame Auburn doesn't play Mississippi State.
I know it.
They should always play Mississippi State. They did for years, and now they both stink and they don't play each other.
That would be a great game.
It's not fair.
It'd be a great game because without Vanderbilt anymore to be the worst team in the conference, somebody's got to fill that in. And we might have a tie at the bottom of the standings.
We don't need that. And so both are Auburn and Mississippi State are the only winless teams in the conference. So I'm going to keep them winless this week.
All right, I'm going to go with Arkansas. as well. Next up, Oklahoma at Ole Miss. Man, did Oklahoma look bad last week? Got absolutely smashed by South Carolina, 35-9. What's the matter with Oklahoma?
They're just not that great. They were overrated. Auburn should have beat them. Well, they should have beat a lot of teams. But, I mean, they've struggled really, really big time the last couple of weeks, especially. I think they're not coming back. I don't think they'll be back this year. I think Ole Miss will take care of them pretty easily.
Yeah, Ole Miss, they have dropped in the rankings. They're at 18th right now.
They've really had a bad season.
They are like Alabama.
Yeah.
And probably in worse position because this is desperation win out and look good for Ole Miss if they want to make the playoffs. So I'm going Ole Miss as well. Maybe they'll get things straightened out. Who knows at this point in college football. Next game, this one is very interesting. Texas, coming off of an unimpressive game against Georgia, which they lost, going to Vanderbilt, who's cracked the rankings for the first time since 2008, which makes it the first time in my lifetime that Vanderbilt's been ranked.
Wow.
They got to play Texas. Vanderbilt's already beaten Alabama at home. Do they have a shot to beat Texas here?
God, that would be – I wish Texas was number one so Vanderbilt could beat two number one teams. But that's a tall order.
It is.
Especially with Texas coming in mad after that game last week. Boy, that was a mess. Texas was so hyped up for that game to get blown out. I mean, it was not as close as the score indicated.
Texas was able to get one touchdown because fans like to throw trash on the field.
It worked.
Hey, when the referees reversed the call on the field because the fans throw trash on the field. I mean, even though it was probably the worst call I've seen all season. It was a terrible
call, yes.
Not setting a great precedent, but hey, if the refs get it wrong, fans have a right to correct it. So you're going with Texas?
Yeah, I'm going with Texas. Probably pretty easily.
I am too.
A couple touchdowns.
I hate it for Vanderbilt.
I would love to see
if Vanderbilt wins, it makes Alabama look so much better.
That's why I was kind of hoping last week that Ball State beat Vanderbilt, and they fell 10 points short.
I'm disappointed in you.
It's like, come on, Ball State.
Vanderbilt, they have kind of a tough schedule the rest of the way. They get to play Auburn, which should be easy for them. I'm joking. That might be an entertaining game.
That might be a decent game,
But
I don't like Pavia at Jordan-Hare, so I do not like that idea.
I've got Texas as well, but like you, I would love to see Vanderbilt pull that upset.
Yes.
This game is for first place in the SEC. Number 8 LSU going to number 14 Texas A&M. How is A&M undefeated in conference play at this point?
I think both of these teams will be exposed eventually. They've got to be, right?
Right.
They're not that great, and I don't feel good about either of these teams. I like Nussmeier's big-time throws he made against was it Ole Miss? Ole Miss. That was clutch. And what have we seen from Texas A&M? Not a whole lot.
Texas A&M has had 2 good games this season, just looking at the final score. Against Missouri, which they won handily and looked great.
That's right. Yeah.
And then against McNeese State. They nearly lost to Bowling Green. Texas A&M only beat them by 6. They only beat Bowling Green by 6.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense. And yet you're telling me that this team is the best in the SEC? No way. I think LSU wins it big. I say big. It'll be close for a while because it's at Texas A&M, and the 12th man will make some sort of impact. But in the end, I think Garrett Nussmeier makes too many big throws, and they win.
I went Texas A&M.
You went, wow.
I know. You believe that? I have no reason. It's kind of like last week, Kentucky over Florida.
Yeah.
And that was a terrible mistake.
Bad
That was a loss by 4 touchdowns. Mistake. So Texas A&M will probably lose by 4 touchdowns. That's why I picked them. They're at home. That's the only reason, and I don't feel good about it. I don't really think much of either team.
Well, you brought up Kentucky, and that brings us to our next game. Auburn at Kentucky. Does Auburn have a chance?
I think they do. The line, it's kind of like the Missouri one. It's only a couple of points.
Right.
And Auburn, I mean, you really can't say they should have won. They didn't.
They did.
They did not. They did not win haven't won a Power 5 game this year.
That's right. Beat New Mexico and then Alabama A&M.
Well, New Mexico, very good team. So I'm going Auburn. And yet again, I really don't have a reason. I don't know. I feel like they're going to win one of these.
They have to eventually, right?
And I kind of thought it last week, but I feel more like it this week. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be ugly. They're going to score 17 points. That's what they're going to score. Can you hold Kentucky to 16?
Oh, I think
maybe.
I think that Auburn can, because the defense for Auburn really hasn't been terrible. In fact, like I said, Auburn's starting to turn in the right direction. Mm-hmm. Kentucky losing last week to Florida really exposed them for me. I can't pick them again. I'm going with Auburn to win on the road here.
We're both picking Auburn.
Both picked them. Both picking Auburn.
That's going to be a first time and maybe only time all year. I'm unimpressed with the Georgia transfer.
Yeah, Brock Vandegrift.
Very unimpressed. So He is definitely not a running threat much.
No.
So, yeah, I think that helps Auburn. They're not good against running quarterbacks.
Well, it's hard to defend.
Yeah, but who
against
is? You know, really who is?
Speaking of running quarterbacks, Jalen Milroe looked pretty bad last week against Tennessee. He's got a chance to right the ship, as well as his team, Alabama. Hosting Missouri, Bama falls to 15th in the rankings. Missouri, after the narrow win against Auburn, drops 3 spots to 21st. So what do you think happens?
Yeah, I'm thinking Alabama just gets it right this week. Just run Milroe.
Just
you know,
run
is
him.
that asking too much?
It feels
Just get him
like
out in the open field. He'll score.
That's the reason that Alabama went to the playoffs last year.
And
Is
it's
because
so
you
fun
let the
to
guy
watch.
run.
Yes.
You let him run the football, and now he's not, and the season's starting to fall apart.
Yeah, there were so many chances just last week where just run the ball, and he could have ran for a first down. Instead, here they punt. You know, just it's so frustrating.
There were a couple of times that he ran when he shouldn't have.
Yeah, that's
But then when he
true.
should have,
Yeah,
he didn't run.
that's true.
So I don't know what's happened. Maybe he'll show up and show out. If not, you know, it probably won't be long before the fans start looking at Ty Simpson thinking, man,
Wow,
he might
who
not
would
be
have
very.
ever thought
Who would have
that?
dreamed that
Never.
3 weeks ago? But
I still take Milroe. I said that last year when he was benched at Alabama. I take him as my quarterback.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, he would be better than Peyton Thorne.
Well, Ty Simpson probably is.
So are you
Nobody's ever
picking Alabama?
I'm picking Alabama. This is their lowest ranking since 2010.
Gosh,
It's been a while.
Yeah, they dropped to 13th last year. In 2015,
close.
they dropped to
Close then.
13th. So they've been down in that level, but never back to 15th since the 2010 where they finished 10-3.
Yeah, that was a disappointing season.
And I could see 10-3 for this team. I really could.
Yeah, the LSU, like you said, LSU is big, but got to take care of Missouri first.
Take care of Missouri because
Yes.
I could see this going a number of
They're
different
not
ways.
bad. They're
No,
not
Missouri's not
great,
bad.
but they're not bad either.
But I'm going Alabama. So are you, I reckon.
Yes.
And that
They'll beat
wraps
that
up Zach's
line.
picks.
Oh, that's it. Okay,
That's
yeah.
it.
It's hard to believe we're coming to the end of the high school's almost over.
High school. Well,
I mean, for some teams, it is over this week.
for some teams, however, we could be talking about them even a month from now
Right.
because we have the talent at
That is
corner
true.
and at Lynn and Winston County where these teams could legitimately be in a chance to go to the state title
Yes.
game.
Hopefully, it's snowing outside when they're still playing.
Oh, yes. Well, actually,
I've been to those playoff games and they're
Yeah.
awful. But yeah, that would be nice to have somebody playing. It's always around Thanksgiving. If you have a team playing around Thanksgiving, you know
It's
they
good.
made a run.
it is a good week for you.
And that's not even close to here. So yeah, we'll have some teams kicking around. All right, so that wraps up our show. Thanks to Zach for being here. Thanks for Bevill State for sponsoring. Thanks for Jake for producing. And if you like the show, like and subscribe. And we'll see you next week.